Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we start, please hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into the video. In the wake of the beach house bloodbath, the atmosphere in Los Angeles was thick with unease. Whispers of betrayal and fear rippled through the corridors of Forrester Creations, where Finn and Ridge found themselves drawn into an investigation more tangled than anything they had ever faced. The police had arrived at the scene with solemn faces and tape stretched taut across the sand. But beneath the official statements lay a question that no one could ignore. Why did the second bullet's trajectory refuse to fit the stories told by Luna Noah and Sheila Carter? Both women insisted that Luna had gone mad with grief and rage, that Sheila's desperate intervention had produced one stray shot meant only to disarm. Yet every forensic diagram and expert's recreation of the shell casings and bullet fragments pointed to a third shooter. Someone calculating precise, driven by an agenda that none of the survivors could yet name. Finn crouched on the tile floor in Ridge's office. A scatter of trajectory reports spread before him like a puzzle while Ridge hovered beside him. His stern jaw clenched tighter than ever. They traced lines back to a vantage point that lay just beyond the dunes where in the chaos no one had thought to look. A spent shell had rolled under a folding beach chair abandoned in the scuffle. The metal casing bore no fingerprints, but Ridge's sharp eyes caught a glint of red nail polish smudged at the edge. Evidence that would later prove pivotal. As they compared notes with the LAPD detective assigned to the case, Finn's mind raced. He knew Luna's claim of fear and betrayal, Sheila's story of self-defense, and even Liam's description of throwing himself between bully and victim. But the bullet hole in the back wall, high and deliberate, told a different truth. Someone wanted to make sure that Sheila fell, Finn murmured, tracing the line of fire. And someone wanted to terrify Steffi, to paralyze her with the knowledge that death could come from anywhere. Ridge grunted, a sound more like a lion's low growl than a man's simple acknowledgement as he circled around to the clincher. A scrap of fabric snagged on the splintered doorframe, the pattern unmistakably belonging to Hope Logan's own Chanel scarf, which she had worn to her meeting with Liam at Forrer's the other morning. Finn's breath caught in his throat. Hope had been furious when Steffi ousted her from the runway division. Social media had lit up with her bitter pleas and retaliation videos before the board finally voted to remove her. No one, not even Ridge or Brooke, had thought Hope capable of violence. But here was an unblinking clue that someone had exploited Luna's instability to carry out a cold, calculated revenge. The detectives moved quietly, not daring to let word leak to the press that their prime suspect might be the golden girl of Los Angeles social circles. Finn and Ridge accompanied them to Hope's apartment, where her white silk curtains rippled in the Pacific breeze, oblivious to the storm gathering beyond. Stepping inside, the trio found the place disturbingly neat. No sign of frantic packing or confession, but the closet told another story. There, folded in a pile of designer coats, lay a blood-stained pair of stilettos that matched the footprints found in the sand outside Sheila's fallen body. Hope's phone lay on the nightstand, open to a text draft addressed to Steffi. A blistering manifesto of betrayal, accusing the Forresters of hypocrisy and cruelty, peppered with threats designed to wound her where she was most vulnerable: her family, her reputation, her very safety. Finn held the device in gloved hands, the screen glowing with the final unsent line. "If you think you can send me away without consequences, think again." Ridge's voice, usually a calm baritone of authority, cracked as he said she intended this to be more than a scare. She wanted someone dead. The revelation struck Finn like a physical blow. He remembered the moment Luna had raised the gun. He remembered Sheila's anguished cry as she grabbed at the barrel. He remembered Liam's body stiffening as the bullet tore through his shoulder. But he had never imagined that behind the seemingly random violence lay a second player stalking the edges of the conflict with a vendetta so personal it bordered on obsession. Steffi, still recovering in her hospital suite, pale but resolute, would later tell him that betrayal cut deeper than any bullet because it meant that the woman she had once called sister had embraced violence rather than dialogue. Bill Spencer, when informed of the new evidence, slammed his fist on the boardroom table, his face a mask of rage and regret. He understood, perhaps more than anyone, how power and diplomacy failed when pride and vengeance took over. By the time the detectives read Hope her rights, calling in a warrant for her arrest on charges ranging from conspiracy to attempted murder and homicide, resulting in Sheila's death, the sun had dipped low enough to cast orange streaks across the hospital's surgical wing. The corridors buzzed with whispers. Hope Logan arrested for Sheila Carter's death. Finn stood just outside the operating theater where Liam and the mysterious deliver man struck by the stray third bullet were prepped for surgery. Rich lingered behind him, arm draped across his shoulders, sharing the weight of grief that comes when friends hurt one another. The world outside seemed to tilt on its axis. The fragile alliances of the fashion empire quaking under the knowledge that Steffi's closest confidant had plotted her downfall in blood. Cameras waited beyond the sliding glass doors, ready to capture every gesture of remorse, every tear shed when Hope was led away in handcuffs. Back at the beach house, the remnants of that horrific afternoon lay undisturbed. Sand drifted across shattered glass. Wind carried the echo of sirens down the shoreline, and the bullet-riddled walls stood as mute witnesses to the collision of loyalty and betrayal. Finn vowed to Steffi that he would not rest until every piece of evidence was laid bare, every motive exposed, and justice served, even if that justice meant condemning someone he had once admired. Rich, bruised by the betrayal of two women, he had trusted Sheila, whose twisted love had always been a danger, and Hope, whose rage had been unthinkable, resolved to rebuild the Forrester legacy on firmer moral ground, where ambition did not overshadow compassion and forgiveness did not excuse violence. As dawn broke over Los Angeles, a hush settled on those who remained. Steffi clinging to Liam's hand as monitors beeped steadily. Finn poring over trajectory charts and witness statements. Rich staring out at the ocean where the surf swallowed the secrets of that day. And Hope Logan facing the stark reality of her arrest, contemplating the cost of revenge in a world where one bullet can upend every life it touches. The question now lingered in every mind. Could a family torn apart by jealousy and grief ever heal? Or would the shadow of that fatal shot forever stain the sands of CBS's most dramatic saga? Only time and the trials to come would reveal the true price of vengeance unleashed on a tranquil beach. The beach house stood silent under a bruised sky until the fatal crack of a gunshot shattered the calm. Sheila Carter and Luna Nazo grappled for the weapon. Sheila's desperate yank on Luna's arm. A flash of cold steel. A single echoing report that ripped through the afternoon. As the smoke cleared, Sheila crumpled to the sand-flecked floor, her fingers sprawled across her side, her face a mask of agony. Before any of them could catch their breath, Steffi Forrester staggered backward, her high-heeled sandals sinking into the driftwood-strewn sand as Luna leveled the gun straight at her chest. The air vibrated with dread as Luna's voice, low and unsteady, hissed her threat. One more step, one wrong move, and she would pull that trigger. Turn this nightmare into a tragedy. Behind Stevie's wide eyes flickered both fear and fighting spirit, the warrior princess unbowed, yet painfully aware that the slightest shift could be her last. Miles away, Liam Spencer had shared a tender moment with Hope Logan over the phone, whispers of future dreams, the soft comfort of her laughter trailing into his ear. But as he hung up, an unsettling silence crept into his instincts. Something was wrong at the beach house. He tore out the door, adrenaline flooding his veins as he raced through the dunes and palm shadows. Inside, he heard the single, unmistakable click of a hammer drawing back. He burst through the French doors, eyes locking on Luna's trembling figure, gun raised and Steffi standing frozen before her. Without a second thought, Liam hurled himself into the crossfire, aiming his own body between the barrel and the woman he loved. A sudden flash, a burning pain ripping through his shoulder. He stumbled, grit and seawater stinging his eyes. Yet his arms curled protectively around Steffi as he shielded her from harm. Somewhere in the chaos, a third figure, a less bystander caught in the crosshairs, cried out as another bullet found flesh, and the beach house erupted into sirens of fear and confusion. In the aftermath, Luna's meticulously plotted scheme lay in ruins. The gun misfired, her resolve cracked, and she found herself shaking, trapped between guilt and terror. Steffi, rallying her inner strength, lunged forward and wrenched the weapon from Luna's grip. For a harrowing instant, time hung suspended. Steffi's fingertip trembled on the trigger, her mind racing with the weight of what this single decision could mean. But with a steadying breath, she aimed past Luna, firing into the sand to neutralize the threat once and for all. Luna crumbled, eyes glazed with shock, her plan undone by Steffi's iron will. As word of the shooting spread, frantic calls rippled through the lives of all involved. Steffi's family, already fractured by secrets and betrayals, rallied in terror and grief. Hope Logan dropped everything, her maternal instincts propelling her toward the hospital, while Douglas wondered if his parents would ever be whole again. Bill Spencer's name became a target of outrage as neighbors whispered that it was his influence, the pardon he'd secured for Luna, that had set this chain of devastation into motion. Under streetlights and behind closed doors, accusations flew. If Bill hadn't intervened, Luna never would have had the chance to execute her revenge. Wednesday dawned with the sterile roar of hospital elevators and the hushed urgency of medical teams gearing up for life-saving interventions. Sheila Carter, pale and trembling, was wheeled into surgery, her longtime nemesis in for yet another desperate fight. Liam, bloodied but resolute, lay on a gurney beside her, groaning as a nurse cleaned his wound. The bullet had nicked bone and torn muscle, demanding delicate repair. The mysterious third victim, a local deliver man who'd wandered in at the wrong moment, was draped in bandages, his future uncertain. In the operating suites, Grace Buckingham scrubbed in alongside Lee Finnegan and Bridget Forrester, their faces drawn but determined as they prepared to battle for life where death had so nearly reigned. Meanwhile, Finn found himself standing at the threshold of the trauma ward, the weight of every tragic headline crashing down on him. Beach House Massacre. Fate of Spencer. Forrester hairs in doubt. Luna's pardon blamed for bloodshed. Each headline stabbed at his conscience. Each rumor a fresh wound. As the doctors hustled by, he realized this storm would not pass quickly. Every stitch sewn, every heart stoppage reversed would tie him more deeply to the people he loved and those he once trusted. He braced himself for the long haul of recovery, of questions with no easy answers, of reconciling his duty as a healer with the personal devastation swirling just beyond the doors. Yet amid the trauma, a fragile thread of hope endured. Steffi sat vigil by Liam's bedside, her fingers entwined with his as he drifted in and out of consciousness. Each squeeze a silent promise. "I'm here. We'll fight through this." Bill, humbled by the weight of his decisions, vowed to do whatever it took to atone for the Pandora's box he'd opened. Hope still held on to the belief that love could heal these wounds, that the bonds of family, no matter how tattered, could be reforged in the crucible of crisis. Even Luna, shackled in a hospital gown and haunted by her own actions, stirred with dawning remorse. Her future as uncertain as the verdict that awaited her. The Bold and the Beautiful has long thrived on the razor's edge between passion and danger. But Tuesday's massacre at the beach house marked a new nadir of suspense. Lives hang in the balance as surgeries proceed, secrets surface and relationships fracture under the weight of fear and guilt. Will Liam pull through and recover enough to protect Staffi once more? Can Sheila escape yet another brush with death and redefine her destiny? What fate awaits the unwitting third victim? And will Luna find redemption or only deeper ruin? As Finn readies himself to bear witness to every triumph and setback in that antiseptic corridor, one thing is clear. Nothing will ever be the same for the Forresters, the Spencers, or the entire community that watched horror unfold on their cherished shoreline. Tune in midweek to witness the fallout, the heartbreak, and perhaps the first flickers of forgiveness that rise from the smoking ashes of this unprecedented tragedy. The battle for life, love, and redemption has only just begun.